Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Get Lifted podcast. Thank you to our weekly listeners. We're excited today to have Jersey Jerry on here, a member of Barstool and a member of Sober Community, and more importantly, someone that uses his platform to inspire others. Jerry, I want to say first, thank you for coming on. How's things going today?
Good man, good man. Just got back from getting a haircut. My son's about to get a haircut. Just a good old day today. Had a stream last night, but today's going good so far. Excited to be here.
Good, yeah, I appreciate it. Sorry for looking crazy. I forgot to say in the beginning. I took a softball to the face
Oh God,
2 weeks ago, so
Jesus. It's wild. When I was like 13 or 14, I wasn't even golfing. I was at a baseball field and there was a golf course like next door. Somehow, some way, this guy must have shanked his drive so bad, hit me right in the back. I had a welt on my back like that big. Crazy.
damn, the chances of that. That's
I know.
crazy. Yeah, well, I'm excited to chat today. We've been talking about this for a while, and a lot of people are interested in your story and platform, so we can get cracking. If you want to take a minute and just tell people like the quick background of your story.
Yeah, for sure. So grew up in a pretty loving home. Dad and mom were in my life. My mom a lot more than my dad. My dad was just a habitual drug dealer, couldn't stop, in and out of prison. Um, so he was there when he wasn't in prison, but for the most part, a lot of rehabs, a lot of detoxes for him. I grew up spoiled. I got everything I wanted. Christmases were great. Like I said, my dad had some money from, dealing drugs and whatnot. So we had money growing up until we didn't. Athletic. I was in high school playing sports, started smoking weed when I was like 15, 16. Thought it was like the cool thing to do. Buddy introduced me to prescription medication, started trying to sell it, but eventually realized like, hey, I'm not going to make any money off of this because I'm an addict. I'm a, you know, really, really bad drug addict, and got hooked on pain meds. When that got too expensive, turned pretty much to heroin, which led to crack cocaine. In between that whole time frame is just like a bunch of arrests, a bunch of detoxes, a bunch of rehabs. Um, but I never like took it seriously. Like I always thought it was a joke. I always said to myself like, "Hey, I'm going to bang out this 60-day, this 90-day program, and once I'm done, I'll be able to go back to doing what I want to do until, life catches up with you, real stuff happens." And then I got to a point in 2015 where I said to myself like, "Hey, enough's enough. I'm going to give myself a chance, and a real chance. I'm going to dedicate myself and see what happens." And I took it really serious in 2015, went to Scottsdale, Arizona. On July 4th, I got sober, and I haven't really looked back since.
So you've been sober since 2016, right?
2015, July 4th. Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah, man. It was a process.
Yeah, I mean it's neat to hear the story because it's amazing how much like I hear my story in there and so many others that are just the same thing. It's crazy with prescription pills trying to sell, say literally the same exact story.
Yeah, yeah. I was just caught up in a life that I thought was real, but it never. The drugs gave me the rush that I needed, the lifestyle that I was trying to live, wasn't working out, but the drugs gave me everything I wanted, so I thought, until they didn't give it to me anymore.
Yeah. And what do you feel like on that last? You went to multiple rehabs, you said, right?
Yeah, 14.
What do you feel like on the last one was the big change? Because I've been to a few, and I know people ask me a lot, like, well, what changed?
It's funny you asked that because I've realized as I've gotten older and went to all these places, I've been to 14 inpatient facilities, I've been to 20 something detoxes, 5 or 6 psych wards. Every single place tells you the same exact thing. It's never the place, right? It's they all say the same thing. They always say 90 meetings, 90 days, go to a meeting, uh, get a sponsor, be a sponsor, get a commitment, do all these things, work the steps. Every place told me that. I could have got sober when I was 16 years old, 17 years old. But the only thing that really changed was I changed, you know. The programs never changed. The programs all told me the same thing. But for the first time in my life, I changed. I started to take it serious. I started to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to give myself a real chance here. I'm going to listen. I'm going to do whatever they tell me to do. I'm not going to complain. I'm just going to man up, be a man, listen to whatever people are saying. And, you know, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. No, I can relate a lot. Relate a lot. I mean, I think some give less than others, but they all are there to do the same thing for us, you know.
Oh, yeah.
What um what do you after rehab, what helped you kind of find sobriety or, you know, cement that foundation in sobriety for you?
So I think a big part of my story and what really helped me was this last time around, I stuck around people who, you know, the saying, they stick with the winners. I always stuck with the losers. I always stuck with the people who wanted to go out and get high afterwards, who all had reservations after they got out the program. But this time around, I stuck with the winners, and the winners were the real people who had enough, and they were serious about wanting to change their life, wanted to change their lifestyle, had aspirations, had goals, had dreams. I stuck around those people. So I get out the rehab. I pretty much headed to sober living for another 90 days, and um, got a job that was paying minimum wage. It was like $9.40 or something like that, 50 cents, bagging groceries. And I stayed humble, man. I stayed humble. I did everything they told me to, went to the meetings, got a sponsor, sponsored other people, reached out for help. I used the phone. And pretty much like that really built my foundation of friends in sobriety and people who were living an honest life now, who were accountable and they wanted to really change, you know? So I just stuck with the winners, and I felt like that's really cemented me, my foundation at least, for recovery.
Yeah, that's I think that's the main message out there to try to get people after recovery places like treatment centers, you know, to set that foundation. I think that's a great leeway into getting into, you know, we'll talk a little bit more about your story, but I think what you do now, Friends of Jerry, you know, setting a community. I just want to say thank you on behalf of myself, someone who has 5 years. My sobriety is pretty, it's always a daily reprieve, but it's pretty set in cement now. But my schedule's changed a lot, and it's helped a lot to have Friends of Jerry and a new community and on the go, be able to jump in Zoom. So I want to thank you for that and let you tell a little bit about maybe how that came about, how it helped you.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, I mean, you know, I've been in recovery for a little while now, and I always wanted something that, you know, after COVID, you know, meetings, in-person meetings were, you know, so hard and you weren't even able to really go. So I would join a bunch of Zoom meetings and whatnot, and I kind of enjoyed it. You know, it was pretty easy. We got the same message. It's pretty much what we're doing right now. It's like, hey, you know, sometimes you don't even need to leave the comfort of your own home to get a message, you know, which everybody has a busy schedule. Everybody, you know, has things they're doing. Everybody has a job, you know what I mean? So for some people it's hard to go to meetings, you know, to get up and, you know, after a day's work, go home, eat dinner, shower, hang out with your kids, and then you got to go to a meeting. So I seen a lot of that going on, and pretty much started, it was small. It was like 4 or 5 people, 6 people that you know, really in the beginning were coming around every single time. And you know, we just kept going and kept going. And, you know, I'm grateful to have Nicole and a lot of other people in there. We have, you know, Willie, Jeff, and all these guys that who are so open about their sobriety and, you know, love spreading the message and whatnot. And, you know, those guys are in there and they help a lot, and they show up all the time. And, you know, my schedule's kind of wacky now with Tuesday nights. I do streams and whatnot, but you know, it's a good place for people to go if they want to get a message on a Tuesday night at, you know, 7 o'clock, you know, Central Time. So, yeah, man, it's going well. I really enjoy it. The last couple of weeks been hard to get to because of my schedule with work and construction on the house and whatnot. But hey, man, we're gonna keep doing it. You know, we've been doing it for over a year now, so hopefully many more to go.
Yeah, it's actually funny. I mean, they're all great, like you said, Nicole, all of them. But Jeff was actually just got in Connecticut at my studio while I was in the ER for my eye, and I had to text him and be like, "Bro, I just got rocked. Turn around." Felt
Oh
terrible.
God, Jesus Christ, that sucks. Jeff's a great guy.
Great guy, man. And how do you stay sober today? I mean, it must be tough. I gotta say, I'm interested because I know I'm busy, but with your platform, your schedule, it must be even harder to remain spiritually fit, find a little time, things like that.
Oh yeah, it's it's funny how we're doing this right now because I just read something, and I don't know the exact quote, but I was reading something today, and it pretty much said like, I've gotten to the point where I don't consider myself famous, but I consider myself pretty well known. When I go grocery shopping, out to dinner, people take pictures, people come up to me, say hello, always tell me how great you're doing, whatnot. I love that you do this, love this, you're so successful, you're amazing, blah, 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 blah. It's easy for that to get to a person's head, right? And be like, oh, wow, everything is great, everything's going good. Like, I deserve something for it, you know what I mean? But that's really the wrong way to look at it. Like, it's easy for me to see those things and be like, hey man, everything's going great. Like, I can go out and have a beer, or I can go out and smoke a joint. Like, I'll be okay. Look at all these people. They're coming up to me, they're taking pictures, they're telling me how successful I am. They love watching me, blah, blah, blah. But you got to remain humble. And, that's a big part of it today, man, is I live in humility, dude. Like, yes, I've acquired some things in sobriety. Sure, yeah, like some nice things. Great, that's all great. But I'm a regular guy, man. I put my socks on and my underwear on the same way you do every day. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just a regular guy who likes to make people laugh, have fun, and I love to stay sober, and that's a big part of it too. Like, I love being sober. I don't like dread it. I don't get jealous when people are out drinking and I'm like, oh, fuck, I wish I could. No, dude, like, that's not me. That's not my life. Like, I like hanging out with my family. I just got a dog yesterday. Like, I just like being a homebody who lives a regular life. I don't live beyond my means, and I remain humble every day. You know what I mean? I'm just a humble guy I'm not chasing like some sort of like fame or anything. I don't need that. Like, all I need is for me to stay sober one day at a time, and things just fall into place from there.
I love that. I mean, I can relate a lot. I don't have the platform as big yet, but just like with a book, and I have a social media, TikTok, that I do a bunch of recovery stuff with like over 10,000 followers. People think you're different sometimes, and I can only imagine at your level, it's just like I'm the same person that was smoking crack in a car, just doing better. Like I'm just a guy, you know?
Exactly, man. It's funny you say that. It's like, dude, I remember like what it was like doing those things, and I'd be lying to you if I told you I didn't have good times, right? I've had some great times getting high, but I've had a lot more bad times. And, those times outweigh the good times, It was all fun in the beginning, but eventually it got to a point where it's just not sustainable. And you're either going to die, you're going to go to jail, something's bad's going to happen, you're going to kill somebody else. So, yeah, dude, like I said, I just try to remain humble. That's my main thing.
Absolutely. And I think I heard one of your stories one time. Yeah, I've heard it a couple times on podcasts and things like that. But we like to ask on here so people understand because it's hard for a lot of people, and I think that's what's important for myself, people like you that are open about it, that have some type of platform. Is what was like your rock bottom? Because I know people see you now and they can't really imagine, you know what I mean? Fucked up John or fucked up Jerry. So what do you think was your like rock bottom kind of?
Ah, I've learned, there's the bottom always gets deeper, but my rock bottom for me was just next to like, I remember, like, being next to a dumpster and I haven't showered in days, and I'm picking up cigarette butts off the ground and smoking the filter and just chasing, and like, like I said, haven't showered, smell really bad, dirty clothes, socks are gross, haven't brushed my teeth in such a long time. And it I didn't my mom is the one who pretty much found me. I wasn't the one reaching out for help, right? My mom found me next to a dumpster in Dunkin' Donuts where she was getting her morning coffee, and pretty much said, like, look at you. Look at what your life has become. Like, look at the shape of you. You smell so bad, you're filthy, you're sweating. Like, look at how your life is. Where did the old Gerard go? Where's my son? He's somewhere in there. And she's pretty much said, let's go. Let's send you away, far away, and give yourself a chance and see what happens. And I kind of agreed in the moment. Not that I wanted to go, you know what I mean? But I felt so bad. I felt like a piece of shit, which I was. Like, I said to myself, like, how am I doing this to the woman who's given me everything in my life, right? How am I, she must be so embarrassed when she goes to my sister's softball games, and the other moms in town must talk about her and be like, oh, her son is the junkie who begs for money by a Dunkin' Donuts. Imagine how she feels. Fuck me. I don't care about me, right now. I care about her. And imagine what she must be going through. So that's kind of how this all spiraled into place where in the beginning, I did it for other people. I didn't really do it for me, and I know my story, and that might sound different to people, but in the beginning, I would say, I did it for those people. I didn't do it for me. I didn't care. I didn't have enough in me to care about myself. I did it for those people. And eventually, in due time, by doing this for other people, today I can say I do it for me, for sure. Yeah. Like, but at that time, I didn't make it about me because I didn't really matter at the time. What mattered was my mom, my sister. Those people were the ones that mattered at the time. And I just used that and to some type of strength to just hold on just for another an hour or another 2 hours, another 24 hours. Like, I just tried to hold on to that for as long as I could. And eventually one thing led to another. And, July 4th is, less than a month away. And, God willing, knock on wood, that's 9 years. So, but it doesn't feel like that. It feels like a couple years, and time goes by so quick.
Yeah, I could relate to that so much because I tell people all the time, they're like, "Oh, you just gotta do it for you." I'm like, maybe that works for some people, but for this addict, like I would have done it for myself if I could have. It was a conversation with my brother, God rest his soul, that he was just like kind of said how I was affecting him in a nice, loving way, and it made me, like you said, it's almost like a fourth or fifth or step. It's like I'm seeing how I affect people. I should probably do it for them. You know.
For sure, yeah. Like, and I've heard that multiple times, and you know sometimes when you get really, and I was heavily involved in the AA community for, like, and I'm talking really, really into it, like every single day, twice a day for a long time. And you always have those people who, you got to do it for you. You got to do it for you. It doesn't work any other way. There's a lot of different ways to get sober, dude. There's a lot of different ways to get sober. Some people stop cold turkey. Some people don't even go to detox. Some people don't go to rehab. Some people don't go to meetings. I firmly believe in those appropriate steps: detox, rehab, sober living, meetings. That's what I believe in, right? And I just did what worked for me. And what worked for me might not work for you or other people, but I'm at the point now where I know exactly what I have to do. The hard part, and I say this a lot, the hard part was getting sober. That's the hard part. The easy part is staying sober. There's a difference, right? Anybody really can get sober, right? They can. You know, but there's some work that you have to do, as well to stay sober. But the hardest part to me was just getting sober, just getting right for that first 90 days, that first 6 months, that was always the hardest part for me. Now it's like, I'm not saying I'm better than you or better than, the guy in a meeting right now, but once you know what to do, right? It's pretty fucking simple, right? It's like you're going to show up to a meeting, whether that be 2 times a week, 3 times a week, 4 times a week, 1 time a week. You got to figure out what works for you, right? So there's just steps you have to follow, and I did the steps. I got a sponsor. Sadly, my sponsor passed away, and I sponsor, when I can. If I'm at a stage in my life where, hey, I'm unable to because of how much travel I have coming up, or hey, I just politely say, hey, I can't help you right now, but I know somebody who will, and pass them along. But when I'm able to sponsor somebody, sure, of course, I have no problem doing that.
That's amazing. And I'm sorry to hear. I did see your post. Sorry to hear about your sponsor. I know he had a big part in your life and a big reason you're here today.
Yeah. Yeah, that was that was the toughest loss I've ever had, in sobriety. I've had some friends and you know, pets and whatnot. But, that was a tough one for me. That was a tough one for me. And you know, I didn't understand why at the time, but I realized, he was a really good man. He was a tough, tough guy. And, he's kind of the one who broke me down and forced me to make this about other people. And, I don't want to get too much into it, but like, I'll never forget, it was my first 30 days there, and I was pretty broken. And we had this room called the Lion's Den. That's what he called it. And it was pretty much a group room with like 4 or 5 of his caseload, which he had at the time. And he would just break you down to make you feel like nothing. And as the time went on, he would build up your confidence and whatnot. But there was a time where I was so broken in that room within my first 30 days, and I just asked him pretty much like, tears in my eyes. I'm like, hey, Joe, when does it stop? When does all this stop? Like, when do I stop getting arrested? When do I stop letting people down? When do I stop robbing people? When am I going to stop ending up homeless? And I'll never forget. He said, it'll never stop until you stop. And that's when the light bulb went off for me. And I was like, oh, okay. And it's so simple, right? It's like, hey, I should have knew that a long time ago, but I didn't. I was so fucked up, right? And I realized, like, okay, all I have to do right now is stop. And then by stopping, everything else is going to stop. And sure enough, he was right. Like, I stopped getting high. I did what they told me to do. And my mom hasn't felt that way in 9 years almost. My sisters never felt that way in 9 years. They're not embarrassed today. They're proud. You know what I mean? They're not embarrassed. They're proud. Like people come up to them, "Oh, are you Jersey Jerry's sister? Are you Jersey Jerry's mom?" And they're proud. Yeah, that's my brother. That's my son. Yeah. Oh, he's great. He's awesome. That's what it's all about. You know what I mean? For me, and that guy Joe Ross, like great guy, had 9 years sober and decided that, hey, I'm not done yet. I got some more research to do, and did some research and ended up dead in a hotel room, right? Like, you know, after a couple times. And it's like, he's right. Like, you're like, all the stuff he's told me, like, all it takes is one, right? All it takes is one bad batch, or, you've been sober for so long, you think you can do a full bag or something like that. And I don't want to get into the graphics and whatnot, but the shit that's out there today, not saying the shit what 5 years ago, what you were doing, or 9 years ago when I doing was good, because it wasn't, but you don't know what the fuck you're getting, man. I mean, they're cutting everything with fentanyl. It's fucking crazy. One bad batch, see ya, you're gone.
Yeah, I mean that's. I think that's important because you have like such probably with Barstool like a young following too, or even like middle age. But like that's why I try to tell people not to like make it sound cool. But when I was doing this, like probably the same time you were about, like I don't want to say it, but there was like pride in the game. Like what you asked someone for, they gave you, and it's like now you can smoke weed and die. That's crazy. Like I don't even want to use. That's nuts.
It's insane. Yeah, like years ago, like it was, I'm not saying drug dealers were the best guys, but there was a time where and this is a true story. This was a true story. I'll never forget it. I went to go cop one day, and I had enough money for $10 for one hit of crack, and pretty much the drug dealer turned to me and was like, "Hey, you're too fucked up, bro. I'm done with you. You're done. You're cut off." Like, and I was like, "What the fuck? Like, I never seen that before. Like, that's crazy." I, and that's probably one of the few and far between. But to get to our point, like, there's a lot of people out there that don't give a fuck, especially, today, in this world, in this economy and whatnot. People are just trying to make that quick buck, and they don't care what the fuck they cut shit with. I've had multiple friends who sober for years and one time gone.
I think it's important for them to know because even when I deal with the youth now, and it's like even when they say smoke weed, it's sad to say like if that's not from like legal weed, like you don't even know if you're gonna die from smoking weed. That's crazy. It's like I would never imagine that in the past. How are things with your mom now? She must be incredibly proud. I'd love for you to share some light on the positive part of getting sober,
Yeah,
relationships.
I mean, we have it's weird how, my life has came pretty much like there was a point in my life where I depended on my mom for everything: food, shelter, get me out of jams, pay my bail, right? Pay for lawyers, pay for my car, pay for my cell phone. And that kind of like switched today, where the relationship is I'm not the one who comes to my mom for help. Like my mom is at the point now where, she depends on her son to be there for her, which I'm happy and proud to do so. So I mean, we have an excellent relationship. I don't live in Jersey anymore, but it's always nice when she's coming in July to visit me, and it's always nice to have her around, and we talk on the phone almost every day. I still call my mom. I'm 30 years old, but I still call my mom almost every day to check in. How are things? You know what I mean? Whatnot. She calls me. We have a really tight relationship, so it's amazing, dude. It really is. When I was next to that dumpster, I never pictured my life like how it is today. I always thought there was a chance, like, oh, one day maybe I'll have a good life, but not like today. I live such a comfortable and happy life that, like, my family is at the point where, like I said before, they're proud when people, come up to them and talk to them, and they're not embarrassed anymore. So our relationship today is night and day from what it was 9 years ago. And hopefully, God willing, it stays that way.
Absolutely. And I think one thing I was wondering, and I wonder for myself one day, is I know you have a little one now. Congratulations on that in the house. How do you feel? Because I feel like we're specially equipped to have, through our failures, a lot of lessons to pass on. So how do you think that might benefit you being a dad?
Oh, oh yeah, man. Like, I'll be honest, when I first got the news, like my girlfriend's like, "Hey, I'm pregnant." I wasn't jumping over for joy, and I wasn't super thrilled. I was scared, I was like, "Oh my God, like, yeah, I'm sober, like for 6 years, 5.5 years, like I am sober for this long. I've been doing really good for myself, but this is gonna be a huge change," which it was for sure. But it also forced me to realize like what it's like to actually be a man. I was always, and I say this to people, I was sober, since 2015, and until my son was born, I still felt like a little kid. I still felt like, I could hang around with my, friends who were 25 and whatnot, and it's like now I feel like a dad. I feel like a man. You know what I mean? It feels amazing, and it's just like all I look forward to every day is being able to get him up and get dressed and change his diaper and go walk outside and go play basketball in the yard, or I get to hang out and watch sports with him, UFC and stuff like that. But I also want him to realize like, hey, this is what a dad is, right? I didn't have a dad, right? The and yeah, I love my dad. I do. But like my dad wasn't present, right? He was never present in my life. And I'm not saying I was a drug addict because of him, because no, I wasn't. But I never had that father figure in my life, right? I want my son to be able to be like, you know what? Sure, my dad might have grounded me, right? Sure, my dad might have put me in timeout and whatnot when I did some bad things. But guess what? My dad was always present, right? My dad was always here. My dad always took care of our family. My dad always showed up when it really mattered. That's what I want my son to realize over the years, like, hey, he can come to me for anything, right? He can ask me for advice. And when he's going through a tough time or something, who knows when he's 16, 17, a breakup, guess what? My dad's going to be there, right? I never had those things. I had a mom, which was great, but there's a different type of relationship with a mom and a son and a dad and a son. So I just hope that one day he realizes, like, hey, my dad, yeah, maybe he was stern sometimes growing up. Who knows what he's going to get into, because all teenagers, they pretty much get into bad shit. But hey, guess what, my dad's going to be there for me. So that's what I'm just hoping for. That's the goal for me.
I'm sure he'll be proud, and he's lucky to have you. It'll go great. I want to be respectful of your time here. We're wrapping up. I know you got a busy day. I just want to bang out. We'll do two quick questions that we usually do. And first one is, what would you say to someone that's struggling today, possibly looking for help or just figuring out if they'll ever make it?
Ooh, that's a good one. What would I say to somebody? I would tell them pretty much to just envision a life, right? Just for a second, close your eyes and envision a life beyond your wildest dreams. Just envision that type of lifestyle. And once they do, I would pretty much say, you can have that lifestyle if you really want it, right? And it sounds cliche and it sounds kind of corny, but I really lived a life beyond my wildest dreams today. Like, if you told me that kid sleeping next to a dumpster would be friends with his favorite football team's players, going to these dinners with celebrities and celebrities messaging you, and it's like it's a crazy life. Like, I never expected that. That's a life beyond my wildest dreams, and that's what I envisioned when I was early on in sobriety and early on, like, getting high. I've always had like flashes of like, God, there's got to be a better life. Like, there's got to be a better way to be going about my life, rather than fucking smoking crack and doing dope, right? And so that's pretty much what I would say is, close your eyes and envision a life beyond your wildest dreams. And when they do, you tell them you can have that life if you really want it.
Love it. And what's your favorite go-to quote, motivational quote, saying?
Ooh, that's a good one. Hmm, man. It's not really. I have a couple, and mine, the one I'm thinking of, is it's just two words, and it's not really a quote, but I got them tattooed on my wrist. Um, it's just to hold on, right? And it means so much to me because early on in sobriety, it was really tough, right? But and then there were some hard days, and there was I still remember what it was like to, you know, um, and I don't want to sound graphic, but the sickness that comes with detoxing and whatnot. But some of those days were so hard, and I remember those days, and I just kept telling myself, just hold on, just hold on, just for one more minute, just stay sober for another minute, just for another hour, just don't make any dumb mistakes, right? Just for another day, just do the right thing for one more day, just one more day. And so the power of holding on, and the power of one more, right? The power of that is like all those hold ons I've told myself, and all those just one more day, just one more hour. It turned into a life that I have today, and 9,000, 9,000, 9 years almost of sobriety, just on the power of just holding on, right? And for me, I don't know about for other people, but dude, there was so many days in sobriety that I didn't want to go to a meeting. So many days I didn't want to go make the coffee as my commitment. I felt embarrassed because I remember one day in I was in, early on in sobriety, and I had a commitment to make coffee, and I was working minimum wage, and I was debating on skipping out on the meeting so I can buy myself a $10 meal, right? Because I didn't have money at the time. I had bills. I had to pay my rent for my sober living and whatnot. I was debating like not getting the coffee and getting food instead. And it's like, man, those times that you just remember, it just brings you back like it's just crazy, dude. And I just tell myself today, man, just hold on. Like it gets better. It gets better. You put in the work, and you don't fuck up, and you don't make no like major mistakes that'll damage your sobriety. It's gonna work out. Like the difference today is I don't I don't put myself in situations where bad things can really happen in terms of sobriety. I don't hang around with people who do the wrong thing. Like I know plenty of people I'm acquaintances with. I'm not friends with them, but I'm acquaintances with them that they still smoke weed, right? They still do their cocaine on a weekend, and cool, that's great. It might work for you. It doesn't work for me, right? So I keep a tight circle, and yeah.
Wonderful, man. Couldn't say it better myself, and I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. I appreciate, letting listeners hear your story. I know, it's going to help a lot of people like you already do. And hopefully get to meet you one day. I appreciate again the friends of Jerry. And I'm wishing you best success and keep following your journey.
I really appreciate you having me on. I'm, happy to share my story and whatnot, and hopefully we can do it again one day. Hopefully, one day we get to meet, chop it up over dinner or something.
Absolutely, man. And everyone, Jersey Jerry, the man. If you're struggling anyone today, reach out for help. If you're not, share some love for someone that is struggling that you could possibly help. It's the Get Lifted podcast. Jerry, have a wonderful day. Thank you, man.
Hey, you too, Jonathan. Have a good one. Thanks for having me.